Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this panel discussion. We all know that the situation in Myanmar remains one of great uncertainty and hardship. But today, we wanted to recognize the bravery and resilience of the Myanmar people as they continue to resist the junta and sow the seeds of a new democracy in Myanmar. I'm Yang Hee Lee, and I'll be moderating the panel today. The session will last for an hour, and the discussion will be followed by a Q&A. So please do submit questions via the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, towards the left side of the bottom of the screen. Please note that we have live simultaneous Burmese interpretation and can be enabled by turning on the interpretation function via the button also at the bottom of your screen. It is situated towards the right side of the bottom of the screen, and it looks like a globe emoticon. On the panel today, we are very pleased to be joined by His Excellency U Aung Myo Min, the Minister of Human Rights for the National Unity Government. Aung Myo Min has been a prominent Myanmar's human rights and democracy activist for more than 30 years. We are also very pleased to have Kin Sandar with us, a human rights activist, a pro-democracy campaigner, and member of the General Strike Coordinating Committee, which was formed after the military coup as part of the nationwide resistance. Finally, we also have Marzuki Darusman on the panel. Marzuki is a fellow founding member of the Special Advisory Council for Myanmar, along with myself and Chris Siroti. Marzuki was also chair of the UN Independent International Fact-Finding Mission on Myanmar. Welcome to you all. We will start out with discussions on the situation on the ground. We'll start by discussing the situation on the ground. And we all saw recently how the shocking third wave of COVID-19 spread across the country. Kin Sandar, can you give us an update on what the COVID situation is currently?
Thank you, I'm Kin Sandar. The ground situation of COVID-19 last month was mostly affected, and the death rate toll was enormously increased, as you saw. And whenever I saw my screen, like one of my friend's father or one of my grandfather being passed away, I haven't seen many death toll within in our circle. So within one day, the death rate is more than 1,000 people last month. So people on the ground are suffering lack of medicine and lack of oxygen tank that SEC being blocked, they cannot buy freely, and even they cannot ship from other countries. So they are military junta is taking away that oxygen tank. And medical family like doctor and nurses are being arrested because they are taking care of COVID-19 positive people. So it's crazy. The doctor and nurses' duty is to take care of people, but they are not allowed to take care of people under the military junta. It's crime against humanity, I would say. And on the ground, people cannot move freely because of like martial law. Even though they need emergency healthcare situation. So, in fact, like volunteer being arrested because of helping COVID-19 positive people. So, young people are trying to help for that, like buying food for that family, buying medicine, but military junta is not allowing that situation to. Means that on ground situation, people are suffering from COVID-19 and also suffering from military coup too. So when it's come to both ways, like it's we can say that it's the war situations happening in Myanmar. Thank you.
Thank you, Kin Sandar. The situation seems very dire. And as days go by, it seems to be getting worse, the COVID situation. Now, let me turn to you, Kyaw Moe Tun. Can you tell us how the NUG is trying to respond to the COVID crisis and what some of the challenges are?
Thank you, Yahili. Thank you, Kinsan, my colleague, for providing ground information, what is actually going on and happening inside the country and in Myanmar regarding the COVID situation. So it is heartbreaking, the people in the country are suffering the COVID situation while they are still, struggling against the coup, military coup. So man-made disaster and health concerns. So in the summary of what you just said, it is clearly showing that the military has, failed to prevent, take a very programmatic approach to prevent that third wave of COVID-19. And also there's a mismanagement. The military did not have well prepared, and also the facilities, education, prevention, knowledge, and treatment are mismanaged. Usually what they do is just to protect the people associated with the military, not the people of the country who desperately need this kind of assistance, awareness, and the treatment. And then moreover, the arrest of their volunteer medics, professional doctors is taking place because they joined the CDN movement. So instead of supporting the community-based action to prevent COVID-19, they arrest it and they take punishment for that. And so there's a many so many things that show that violations of right to health and attack to their medical and doctors. So that is clear sign that the military failed to do what they must do it. So NUG is doing our best to do the kind of prevention and giving the access to the vaccination. Actually, before the military coup, during the second wave, the government did really good job with the participation of the people. And then they have a grand strategy, national grand strategy to counter or to cope with the COVID-19 when it comes. But all these grand strategies are dropped and destroyed because of the mismanagement by the things like that. So far what we are doing is what we have done and setting up the National Commission for COVID-19 Prevention. That is chaired by the Vice President, and also Secretary is the Ministry of Health, who is one of the spearheading people during the second wave. So together with them, there's a whole group of the medics and medical professionals are working together how to cope with the situation of COVID in this situation, and also how to monitor, how to ensure the access of the vaccination, even during that challenging time. Our principle is very clear. The people first, because maybe we have a different situation, different idea, but we see that the people are the first priority. So we will always see that the interest of the people is the first priority whenever we have the prevention and access to health and vaccination. Second one is transparency. It is very important. So far we don't know what is their actual actions or support that go through the military, but we don't want to repeat it again. We want to make sure that transparency is very important. All the programs, all the supplies, all the facilities should be transparent so people know how to access and utilize this kind of facilities. And third one is also important in this, current political situation. Equal balance. That means that we understand, the health organization, international organization, have to talk with the military for logistics and for getting the program inside the country. That's we accept because we care for the people first policy. But you can see that the military always make use of this to get recognition as a legitimate government, and sometimes they also abuse it and exploit it for their own benefit. So what we are calling for the development agencies and government who wants to support their COVID-19 inside the country, do consult with the NUG and ethnic health workers or ethnic health organizations. This is very important because we have, great team of the medics who can cooperate and work together, make sure the access to vaccine or access to breath is, available and accessible by anyone. And also ethnic, health organizations, they have territories, and they also have very good existing health systems in the areas. So I think consultation must be conducted not only with the military, but also, consultation prior to the operation should be with the NUG and the ethnic armed groups or ethnic, health organization where we can do it. We can, operate smoothly and effectively. And then also make sure that you're not giving any recognition or to the legitimacy of the military. You can run the programs without giving any kind of legitimacy to the military. So that is what our principle. So in order to meet this kind of principle, we also set up the COVID-19 task force. That's not only the NUG anymore. We also, invited the ethnic health organization to be part of that, because their cooperation is very important. So that's how we work. We work hand in hand together with the NUG health ministry and other professionals, and also ethnic health organization. So now what we are doing is we give a guidelines and consultant to the organization doing providing this thing, like that our clearly express our principle of people first and transparency, and then equal balance. And so to make sure that there should be independent monitoring systems to make sure the access of the medicines and vaccination reach out. There's no attack or no harassment or intimidation on the people who are delivering this kind of thing. So this is what we're doing. And also we call for the support of any medicine or COVID-19 facilities directly reach to the people, not through the pocket of the military. So that is our clear position, and we are giving that kind of suggestion to any organization and government. And also from other part, the Ministry of Health, providing many, teleclinics, health information, and also some kind of the health guidelines for the COVID-19, together with the other ethnic health organization. So this is what we're doing. But I understand that COVID-19 is the threat for everyone. And then we, as a NUG, we make sure that all this health assistance and COVID-19 reach to the people who desperately need that without any intimidation by the military. And we were joining in hand with the ethnic people in order to have a cross-border assistance, because this is also important. But challenges is, cross-border, we need to get a kind of cooperation of the neighboring countries. So this is the challenge we are facing, but we are finding the way. And also we are already talking with some of the, concerned people and then cross-border would be possible to reach out to people who are in the ethnic areas, and furthermore, we can reach out for the COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you, Myo, for the detailed explanation of what NUG is currently doing to tackle this COVID crisis. I think it's important what you said, the 3 points, the people first, the 3 principles or points that you are striving for, and people first, transparency, and equal balance. And I think along that line, you said that not to recognize the junta as the government. You should work, international assistance should work with NUG and ethnic based communities and ethnic organizations for cross-border assistance. Well, we know that COVID has no borders. It does not respect borders. You can put a big wall, but COVID will soon find its way to the other side of the wall. We'll touch on what the regional response to the crisis has been in a moment, but first we're still seeing images every day of protesters going out onto the street to demonstrate. Kin Sandar, can you tell us what is happening with the democracy movement and the resistance on the ground?
Thank you. I would like to raise all my comrade voice here from different strike committees and different strike groups. So as you all know that strike nature being changing these days because of the operation. So in February, we can go out freely and we can gather like millions of people on the street. But after shooting in March, people are afraid to, some people are afraid to participate. So we're doing some flash mob strike again. We are changing now. Start from last 2 weeks, we are gathering again and going out on the street again in Yangon, Mandalay, Myanmar, and other region with some smoke trend and sort of things that that we are showing that we are still against, and some village from Magui and other region are following that too. At the same time, the arrest is ongoing with different ways, like for example, like they are watching from CCTV record, and in Yangon we cannot use the same car because the CCTV being recorded that car and they are arresting at night. And the police are changing their uniform, so like they are wearing with like normal people, and so that we cannot see that who is police or who will arrest us. And other things is that PDF group in the town they are searching for. So at the same time, like we have to be very careful. Because if we are in the same township, then we can be searched for too. Those kind of like very difficult situation. And at the same time, COVID-19 also one of the tools they are using. Like for example, in some township, they gave only one card, so only one person can go out. So if we are going out on the strike, then only 20 or 30 people on that township. So they can be remembered easily, those strike leaders. That is very difficult. And another one is like they've been following who are the strike leaders and trying to arrest. And sometimes they use another tactic like checking every house in the middle of the day. Like they make a kind of fence and they search for like 20 houses at the same time. So those kind of tactics they've been using these days. But we really determined, and we already decided this time we had to root out these military hunters. So from the strike group, we will continue this nonviolent movement to another big movement. Even though we have many challenges, even though we are aware that there are risks, even though we are hearing from the newspapers and medias, there are many people being arrested, even they being killed. But we are ready to take those risks for our democracy movement. Thank you.
Thank you, Kin Sandai. It seems like the military is using very sneaky tactics now, but regardless of how sneaky they are and how violent and brutal they are, the resistance movement, the democracy movement is still going strong. And I really am surprised that the military doesn't start to back off, because they can't go further with the resolve and the commitment by the democracy movement. We've seen how effective the civil disobedience movement and the strikes have been. Wang Myung-min, can you tell us about how the junta is responding to the ongoing resistance now?
Yeah, the Ken Sana mentioned about the flash mob strike in the cities, very encouraging to see that young people taking a risk and never stopped their defiance and demonstration against the military, even though this already 6 months. So that is the first thing. But that kind of demonstration is not only in the cities, but also you can see that in the rural areas that we never had, before. And so you can see the other small cities participated by their farmers, rural people, women. That is very encouraging to do that. And also my analysis on the demonstrations that's going on is clearly say that the demonstrators not calling only to change the military, from power. They are also calling for the changing the systems. Like, and sometimes I'm very pleased to see that they have a clear message of showing sympathy to the ethnic people, showing sympathy and solidarity with the Rohingya, and also women participation in the demonstration. And even, recognition the LGBT people in the movement. That is really encouraging me to see that now demonstrators are not only just change the military, change the government, but the system that recognize the diversity, unity, and also with society without discrimination in the future. Very encouraging to see that. So that is a really, congratulations to all the people who see their future Burma without any discrimination and respect the diversity. But as I go back to what's saying, there some areas, people decided to protect the communities because military starts launching the kind of military offensive. Depends on the areas where there's any resistance against the Rohingya, against the military people. So, the military stage kind of offensive, military offensive against the whole area. For example, in, Chin area, Karenni area, in Sanpat, in Sakai division. So military used extra military forces and raided the whole villages, the whole areas. And they have an intention to destroy everything. It's like a military operation. So destroy the houses, looted the houses, destroy the whole villages, and kill everyone they found. So for one cases that I just documented, in one example in Kani, that the military sent 1,000 people from the different battalions to the small area like this. The area has never have experienced any military operation before. They are mostly Burman area without any ethnic resistance. But their intention is to destroy everything, kill that. As a result of this intention, there's a more than 40 dead bodies are found. And there's a clear indication of torture, mistreatment, even before they are killed. So this is their strategies using against the areas. And also they use a semi-military tactics. And so the crimes against humanities is taking place by killing demonstrators all across the country. Now it reached to the war crime. because this area is, they declare as a conflict area and then kill the civilians, destroy the civilians' property. So that reached to the cry, a war cry at the stage. But you can see that people never give up. You know, our military intend to use the power to make people scared or putting people in fear. But what they misunderstood is that instead of fear or stop all kinds of struggle, people are more determined to call for justice, to fight against the military, which brutally suppressing the civilians who they know. And the attitude also changed. You know, the eyewitnesses this kind of atrocities. So they think, they understand what had happened in other areas, in ethnic areas and Rohingya people. So the strategy of the military to fight and put people under fear, it doesn't work. Instead of fear, people have more courage, more committed, and more, ready to continue until the military is stepped out.
Well, thank you very much. I think there is unity, there is solidarity among all the peoples of Myanmar, and they're not going to give up easily. Now let's look at Myanmar in the international arena. Marzuki, what hope do you think there is for the new ASEAN Special Envoy to end 6 months of ASEAN's inaction?
Well, Yang He, thank you. Just listening to Kin Sanda and Minister Mu is very heartening to see that after 6 months, the spirit and bravery, as you mentioned, for the Myanmar people are well and alive, and therefore the military have had to resort to clandestine methods, to suppress this movement. Now, of course, the sense of ASEAN being glacially slow is matched by the reality that the special envoy that has been appointed a couple of weeks ago has not quite stepped up and start to do something that would signal that ASEAN is gradually moving on this. Now, I would say that, of course, while it may be inherent within the ASEAN way of doing things, but clearly what is happening in Myanmar is being very, very closely watched by other members of ASEAN who may start having to come to terms with what ASEAN has pledged itself to be, and that is a people-centered ASEAN. And therefore, what is happening in Myanmar, imagine for some people in a few countries in ASEAN is going through their minds that it could happen in their own countries. And therefore, they are taking it very, very prudent in getting things moving. So what is happening in Myanmar, of course, is a regional issue rather than just a Myanmar issue. And therefore, it has to be a concern of the ASEAN as a whole. And if the special envoy may need a bit of time to get things together, it's inevitable that the COVID situation will have to pull things forward, and that is perhaps what is going to happen in the coming days. And here again, the NUG, the civil society movement have proven themselves to be the real representative of the country, of the government, by showing the world that it is capable of delivering services, which is lacking, which is completely being pushed aside by the junta, and therefore legitimately proving themselves as the government of the people of Myanmar. And so we are at a crossroads. It's not possible to disconnect what is the COVID crisis and the political crisis. But be it as it may, I think there's a good chance that moving forward on COVID will drag along the other issues to the point where the special envoy will then have to be allowed to come into the country and finally then try to get all parties together as what has been committed by ASEAN in their leadership movement in pledging for the 5-point program.
Thank you, Marzuki. Let me quickly turn to Kin Sandar. How do people in the movement feel about ASEAN's role?
Honestly, people are not hoping any ASEAN or any international community. They already decided this they should do themselves because it's already 6 months. Then at first, people hope that international community or ASEAN will help to solve the problem, but they already aware that the willingness of ASEAN and international community is lack. And from like for ASEAN, people doesn't have that much hope, and at the same time, centering ASEAN might not solve the Myanmar situation, as everybody aware that ASEAN is a club of dictatorship. So they are taking side from taking side to dictatorship. We could say that. And another point is that if international community or ASEAN is preferring to SAC, then they are also the perpetrators. We could say that they are also perpetrators and they are the supporter of genocide and crime against humanity. Yeah.
Thank you, Kin Sandar. It certainly seems like ASEAN is not that popular among the people in Myanmar. Of course, the UN also plays a critical role. After the General Assembly opens its annual session next month, a decision will be made on who represents Myanmar in the United Nations. SAC-M has recently published a briefing paper on this particular subject. We found that it would be unprecedented for the General Assembly to accept the credentials of a representative of the junta, and that it would be contrary to the UN Charter for the seat to be left vacant. But as we know, anything can happen. Marzuki, how do you think the choice confronting the Credentials Committee and the General Assembly from next month will play out?
That is, I think, is the ultimate high point over the past months. And there is hope, of course, that the NUG and Ambassador Kyaw Moe Tun will prevail. What has happened over the past couple of weeks, of course, Afghanistan somewhat beclouds that situation, but clearly the Myanmar case has to be seen as a standalone matter. And therefore, if you see that the junta is now becoming ever more desperate to suppress the movement, to assault the envoy in New York, then you get a sense that that the battle is on, and that eventually this will take its toll if the international community realizes that the NUG and the people are the representatives, the true representative of the people, then it's a foregone conclusion. But we may have to, of course, for the contingencies that this will be a long haul struggle, and therefore It's not far off. In a couple of weeks, will have to be decided, and the moment of truth will come out. But as things stand, I think there's a fair chance that things will work out, and that for whatever happens in the UN will eventually then reflect what the movement in terms of challenges in the aftermath of the United General Assembly. ASEAN, of course, will play a role there, but for the moment, I think if we look at the UNGA resolution on Myanmar of a couple of weeks ago, it gives you optimism that there is a clear understanding on the part of the international community of what has taken place and what are the merits and demerits of recognizing the NUG and Ambassador Kyaw Moe Tun as the legitimate representative of the Myanmar people and government.
Thank you for the clear explanations. Ang Min, why is this so important to the NUG?
Well, I just want to, mention what Kinsana mentioned, how frustrating the international action on Myanmar. And the strength of our movement is inside the country, because, we cannot stop all the, Civil Disobedience Movement, and also our defiance and, any forms of protest against the military should be going on until we win the victory. This is, I do believe. But at the same time, we also need a kind of international pressure. We're doing both struggles at the same time. One is struggle within the country. Another one is supporting the struggle within the country from the international. So it is very complementary. Without the internal movement, international cannot do anything. And if we don't have the international support, our movement inside the country will be a bit, take longer time. So I think that is a programmatic approach, having both inside and outside pressure. But I'm, as an activist, I strongly believe that struggle in the country, within the country, is more important. But we also need the international pressures. That's why it is important to get the kind of, attention on the situation of human rights, and also more international concrete action to support our struggle for democracy. So that is first I want to, explain, present about it. So that for example, think about that, if the military junta is recognized as a legitimate government, they have a legitimacy to pass every law they want to, so they can, represent as a government at any international forum or convention or, conferences, saying that they are doing the right thing. They are the good people. So it is very dangerous for us. We need to speak out and bring the voices of people from inside the country. We need to present what is actually happening on the ground, so international, communities and governments are aware of the real situation of the country, so they consider what is the role they could play to support and to hear the voices of the people. So that is very important. And then NUG is in a good position to present as a government. The first one is the support of the people inside. It is likely that, military control the areas, but in spirit, we got the good moral support from the people. And then daily demonstration, any forms of the continuing CDM movement show that people don't support the military and they cannot control. It is exactly what is happening. So this is what we can raise it. And second one is the legitimacy. Of course, very black and white clear. NUG is appointed by the CRPH, with the result of the election. So we are legitimate. And also compliance with the international laws. This is clearly that military is non-complying any laws, but they are systematically violating the norms and violations. But we, the NUG, are complying all international law, and we do our best to give a kind of promise and also obligation for protection, respect, and promotion of human rights of the country. So that is very important. We should have recognition at the international. By getting the recognition of the NUG, we can bring the voices of the people, and we can officially and formally raise the issue of the situation. Also, we can give a good, clear recommendation how the international and government can do. For this coming UNGA or Human Rights Council, resolution must be stronger with follow-up action. So if we have that kind of space or seat at the international, we can make that things louder, and then we can also push more forward for the real action and concrete and coordinated action of the international communities. And I know that how frustrating it is, but we are dealing with not only with one government, it's the international community with a different government. But we strongly believe that if we can convince more with the more louder voices, and more legitimate spaces, I think we can convince other countries, and the change will come very soon.
Thank you. Now let me turn to you, Kin Sundar. How do the people on the ground feel about the credentials question at the UN?
They are really aware of that, and they are also showing their demand, like showing the banner on the street, on the site, and also online campaign is going on to support NUG. So their demand is that reject SAC to stop inhumanity and support NUG to save democracy. So behind that message, it means that international community have to reject SAC, because SAC is a bunch of murder, and they are the killer. They are the they are the hunter, and they are not representing people. And another is to support NUG, because it's the only way to save democracy in Myanmar. So people on the ground are also demanding to the international community with strike and online campaign and Twitter campaign that's going on. So that message, I would like to bring it here. Thank you.
Thank you. Whatever the outcome, what we know is that the democracy movement is not going away. But we also know that the junta is at an impasse. It cannot govern, and it won't negotiate. It has been 6 months since the coup was launched. What is the path forward for the next 6 months and beyond is a question that we must ask ourselves at this point. I am cognizant of the time because we want to leave lots of time for Q&A, but I'm going to ask our panelists to respond to this question. What is the path forward for the next 6 months and beyond? Very briefly, before we address the questions that have come in through our chat boxes. Marzuki, please. I think maybe we're having some technical difficulties with Marzuki.
Sorry.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you, Yang Hee. Just quickly, I fully agree with Mr. Moe that ultimately it's the Myanmar people that will deliver democracy, and therefore the importance of maintaining the conditions within the country, with the international community helping out to the extent that it impacts positively within the country. And so what needs to happen in the coming months is the consolidation of the government, the NUG within the country, closer actions, collective actions with the democracy movement, with the ethnic armed organizations, with a single intent to prove to the international community that this movement is the legitimate representative of the government and the people, and by addressing the COVID situation, primarily within the coming 6 months. And therefore, it is a moment for all to band together and to ensure that the COVID situation is under control, in spite of the government, of the junta, bearing down on the population, unleashing its war machine against the people as a whole, showing the international community that what is happening in Myanmar now is the junta trying to assault democracy in the making.
Mm.
And that will, I think, stir the international community to action and to pressure on the junta to come to terms with the fact that the democracy movement is not going to go away. This is different from what has happened in the past. It is an uprising of such proportions that even the junta is at a loss as to how to address this. And that is, I think, the challenge ahead for the NUG.
Thank you. Now I turn to you, Ong Milman, for your answer.
Yeah, so we are now, pay special attention to the ASEAN Envoy and this credential issue that's going to be next month. But I would like to say that this is not the end of the game. This is not the solution of our struggle. It is one of the steps that we need to forward more. So I think we have to be very constantly, reminded ourselves. We should work together and seeing the whole grand strategies of how to stop the military from power, how to take them away from the power. And then even that is not the end of the issues, the end of the solution, the final solution, because we need to think beyond after the military, because how to deal with the accountability issue and justice issue for the past. That the country has, very notorious cases like Rohingya and war crime against the ethnic people and crime against humanity on the peaceful demonstrators. Mm-hmm. We have now more than, 1,000 people were killed and many are still in detention. It should not be ignored. It should not be, neglected. So that kind of thinking after the military and bringing justice and stop the culture of impunity and replace with the system of justice is a must. Mm-hmm. So NUG, you can see that we've taken some very important steps on the position of bringing justice and understanding the diversity. But at the same time, we also think about how to build up our future federal democratic union that never let this thing happen in terms of constitution, in terms of transitional justice, in terms of security reforms, things like that. So we are in the process of consultation with many people concerned, stakeholders, and respect their input. So it's time to work together, not only stop the killing and not only change the military, but also thinking about the future federal democratic union with all your contribution. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll give you the last word, Kin Sandar, on this topic.
Yeah, thank you. So even though it's already 6 months, we could say that the coup is not success yet because they cannot govern anywhere. And like CDM movement is still stronger, hospital cannot run, and bank system is collapsing, and other government sector, government office are not looking anywhere. So we could say that they cannot govern yet. So Civil Disobedience Movement and strike, they are strong, determined to go forward. And we call for a non-cooperation movement. It's a kind of step that public can also involve, like you don't need to pay to electricity, no electricity bill, no taxation, and like no money flow through military hunters channel. Those kind of non-cooperation movement is going on. And for the international, like strike groups, CDMers, EAOs, and federal unit across the country, ethnic people, young people, women, and other group came together as a body called an UCC. So it's kind of political decision-making body is going on. So we have that body, and we have NUG, we have CRPH, and we have 50 million people who are supporting democracy. So I would like to ask international community or whoever seeing that to SCC is that, will you listen to 50 million people, or will you listen to a group of people who had guns? Then if you are choosing a group of people with guns, then you are not balancing the world democracy. You are allowing to destroy democracy, that democracy can destroy anytime with guns. So I would like to request all the international, all the people. So it's time to save democracy. If one area is darker, then the wall of the democracy is darker as a part. So we shouldn't allow this time as 21st century. So I really determine and ask to save democracy of the world. Thank you.
Thank you, King Sanda. What you said is so powerful. You're asking the world, will you side with the 50 million people that support democracy? Or will you side with a few men and women who have guns with them? Yeah. And I think what you said, it's time for us to save democracy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. Now we've received some questions through our chat box. I think the first question is addressed to you, Marzuki. How will the issue of Myanmar's representation at the General Assembly be affected by the situation in Afghanistan and efforts by the Taliban to claim legitimacy? You're muted, Marzuki.
There we go. Thank you for the question. And Yang He, the situation, of course, is still unfolding. By the time, perhaps, I mean, this is just a view on timing, because by the time that the issue of credentials is raised at the UNGA, I'm not sure that a government is in place in Afghanistan, and that therefore they will have to just dispense with this matter and focus on Myanmar. And so, as I earlier said, this is a unique case, and it shouldn't be linked to any precedent or to any ongoing situation, such as in Afghanistan. And it's just a few weeks away, and so perhaps we are all holding on to the view that what has been thought through on how to approach this credentials issue will still hold for another couple of weeks, and we hope that things will work out by themselves in a way that is satisfactory for the movement.
Thank you very much. My next question that came in is to Minister Ong Mil Min. Is the NUG going to try to join the Rome Statute in order to become an ICC state party through accession, in addition to the declaration under Article 12.3?
Okay, yes, as you know that we sent out our declaration our willingness to cooperate. So this is the first step. And then our second step, where we definitely, we consider to accede the Rome Statute as soon as possible.
How long do you think that will take?
Well, it is not only the decision of the NUG, but also we need to consult with the NUCC, which is a kind of, the consultative body of the NUG, and also we need to do the legal process of with the CRPH, which is the representative of the thing. So it depends on how the response of the ICC to our declaration. So we can see what is a response would be, and we can make more clear timeline and also more clear answer after we got back this kind of the response from the ICC.
Well, I hope somebody in the ICC office is listening to this webinar so that they can respond to you at the earliest possible, so that NUG can take the necessary steps to accede to Rome Statute. The next question is directed to Kin Sandar. What can Myanmar's neighbors do to help Myanmar through its COVID crisis?
There are many ways you can help, like support NUG and talk to NUG, and they have like a kind of that Wang Myomin mentioned, that they have a body that they can host, and it's EHO and NUG health minister is now came together. So through the borders, there are some channel you can help. So and a moral support is also needed as the movement is longer, and we need your moral support too. Thank you.
Great. The next question is directed to you, Al Myomin. In addition to cross-border assistance, has the NUG called for donors and INGOs to prioritize COVID assistance in places of detention, including jails and interrogation centers, given the high vulnerability of these locations?
In general, we called, that no one left behind for the COVID health supplies and vaccination. And also, as you know, that, the COVID situation in the detention, especially in the prisons, are very worse. And due to that one, many old political senior leaders pass away. Yes. And so military is using COVID. It's like another strategies and tactics to kill, the political prisoners in the country, in the detention. So we realize that this is the area where it should be more special attention in cooperation with the ICRC, because we send out the letter to ICRC to pay special attention for the visit, for investigation, and for arranging special health services, including the COVID prevention and treatment programs. So I think that should be there should be a coordination with the COVID, the NGOs and international organizations providing vaccination with the ICRC.
Thank you very much for that answer. We have a question that just came in from our Facebook Live, directed to Marzuki. There are rumors going around that the UN Credential Committee will defer the decision on who can represent Myanmar in the upcoming General Assembly. Can you confirm this? If the decision cannot be made, what are the possible consequences on the population and politics in Myanmar?
Well, I can neither confirm nor deny developments. But we are engaged in a political process. And as politics work out, it's the momentary dynamics that determine outcomes. We can always plan ahead, but then again, when it comes to the point where decisions have to be made, considerations will have to be made in connection to the realities that will be clear, much more clearer, as countries have to decide on the issue. The hope, of course, is that if this has to be put to a vote, then the UNGA resolution of the previous period may be a guide to the sentiments of world opinion on what is taking place in Myanmar. So let's not prejudge. Let's look at the situation with an open mind and endeavor to make the best of it.
Thank you very much. That particular UN General Resolution was the resolution against the flow of arms to Myanmar. So this was a very good test that shows where the international community stands on the issue of Myanmar. A follow-up question goes to you, Myo Min. If the military, I think it must have come from a Burmese, because the question is stated this way: if the military wins the seat in the UN, what will we do? No NUG and CRPH anymore?
Very good question. The military can take, in the war scenario, military is recognized as they got the seat at the UN, but the seat of the NUG at the heart of the people will never be taken away. And also we will continue for the democracy and human rights of the country, whether it is recognized as a government or not, because our government is set up not to hold the power forever. We just take a responsibility to bring in the process of more genuine federal union process. So I think we will do that at our best to do what we can do with the support of the people and support of the other international communities.
Thank you. I'm the moderator, but there is a question addressed to me. It says, to what extent do you think the UN and ICJ can take action against Myanmar? The ICJ, we have to wait until the decision. If the ICJ decides that what had happened in 2017 was indeed genocide, then I think that it has a lot of implications for the current Tatmadaw. But to what extent do I think the UN can take? Well, I can tell you that the UN can take a lot of steps, but it hasn't. I can say that the Security Council could have done a lot more, but it didn't. So can we still rely on the UN? Because all it does is condemn and deplore and condemn and deplore. That's all they do, words. But yes, still, UN is the only platform, the only forum that we can have governments or member states to put their heads together to find a solution. As Aung Myo Min said, the solution is not just the recognition by the Credentials Committee of a seat in UN, nor the recognition of the NUG per se, but the ultimate fight, the ultimate struggle would be justice and accountability for the crimes against humanity, war crimes, and genocide committed by the military. I think this brings us to the end. I know we are a little bit over time. I would like to address a few more points here. I'd like to say that, invite our viewers today to visit our webpage. We have issued many media statements, and currently we have issued several briefing papers, and we will be issuing more briefing papers that will be that could be of use to the people in Myanmar and outside of Myanmar. We've tried to get them translated into Burmese too, so it could be widely used. The topic we have discussed today, the COVID situation, and also what we've just touched upon on the recognition and credentials and recognition, all of these topics have been dealt with in our respective briefing papers. I would like to thank you very much for those questions and the answers that were provided by our distinguished panelists. And thank you to our interpreters, and thank you to everyone for joining us today. It is very clear that the international community has to look inside Myanmar to see where the force is, the people, the 50 million plus people coming together with the same cause in solidarity. The full recording of this discussion will be uploaded to our website and social media in English and in Burmese. And you can also find all of SACAM's statements, briefing papers, and contact information there as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Yahili.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Let's say this.